G'day Gut Gang. Alright, the blood test results that you've all been very patiently waiting for. Day 1, or it's day 3, around the time that I started carnivore this way of eating, around day 34, something like that, and then around day 150. So in about 5 days, it's almost my 6-month anniversary of starting this life-changing way of eating. One of the best things I've ever done for my health. In fact, probably the best thing that I've done in the last 14 years. So I cannot recommend it enough, but I do recommend also working with a practitioner that can support you on your goals as well. I worked with people, I will link them down below, highly recommend them. So I actually wasn't going to get my blood results done. I have had good blood work for years, even when I was vegan. Initially, like when I first started vegan in 2010 or 2009, my blood work was bad because I had low iron, low B12. Everything else seemed fine. And then when I did it again a couple of years later, fully plant-based, fully vegan for about 18 months, my blood work was fine. B12, iron, fine, because I took supplements and did that sort of stuff. And I actually gained a lot of weight because I was doing weightlifting, CrossFit, just loading up the calories. I was probably 10 more kilograms or 22 pounds more than I am now, even though I'm eating carnivore, because I was doing weights. Having good blood work was not an important aspect for me because I've had good blood work for years and I felt like shite all throughout that time. So it's not always the best indicator, but you guys asked, so here it is. It's for you guys. Now it's not as extensive as someone like Derek from More Plates, More Dates would do, and that's just because I didn't know all the right things to get, and I was like, let's just get these core important things done, and then we can roll from there. And so the results that I'm comparing are from what I got done the first time, the second time, and now the third time as well. In a sec, I'm gonna flash my blood work up on the screen, analyze, go through all the details and everything like yourself. I won't be explaining anything. I've got my friend Jen Winkler. She is a functional blood chemistry specialist and she is a health coach and she is incredible at understanding and analyzing people's blood and then also things that they can do about it moving forward. So I definitely recommend checking her out. We would be doing a full podcast episode on my podcast, which I'll link down below. Not coming out till June, but like keep your eyes peeled. Just subscribe to that channel so you can see when it comes out. As most people do these days, she's got her own health journey. She had epilepsy, insulin resistance, PMS, PCOS, anxiety, panic attacks, lots of inflammation and weight issues as well. So she turned that stuff around, which is incredible. So she's got a really cool story and I cannot wait to share it on the podcast. Lastly, a bit of context for those who are just new here. So I started carnivore, I was eating predominantly plant-based before that, and I did it to resolve a whole bunch of gut issues, autoimmune issues, which I feel like I have gone a very, very long way with doing this, more so than any other protocol that I have done. I started off carnivore and then I slowly started moving into intro stage 1 of the GAPS diet. And that's where I'm currently sitting, is around stage 1 of the GAPS diet. So I'm not just eating exclusively meat. I was initially, but now I'm having lamb, beef, chicken. I can have a little bit of egg yolk. I'm eating lots of pumpkin, zucchini, sauerkraut. I can have garlics, onion, and I'm having electrolytes, liver supplements, I'm having biltong and meat sticks, and that's pretty much it at the moment. I am going to start trying new things and adding them in as well, like fermented kefir and yogurt that I make at home, but that's kind of what I'm eating at the moment. So I'd say it's like 95% animal based as we are standing. If you want to know more about the GAPS diet that I'm following, then you can check that one out down below. Overall, I'm really happy with how things are going, and this just confirms to me on a blood level that things seem to be going on the right track. And it would be interesting to do this again in 6 to 12 months just to see where things are at. Anyway, take it away, Jen.
So, I mean, there's a whole host of different things, different directions we can go with it. I know the one that most people are probably curious about is the cholesterol. So maybe we'll just start there. So looking at your labs, in the beginning, pretty much almost everything was within range. Your total cholesterol was barely above what their reference range is, but it's within a functional perspective, so it was fine. But like you said, everything there was good. LDL was considered just slightly high on that first one. Nothing to be concerned about. 1 month later, everything was still very close. So nothing really elevated too much. We do see some people when they go on a high-fat diet, a ketogenic or a high-fat carnivore diet, the first 3 months, their cholesterol levels increase dramatically pretty often. And that's one reason I normally will never have somebody get their lipids drawn somewhere in that 3-month window. Some people, it can even take up to 6 months. So that is something else to take a play in here. Jumping ahead, like you said, it's been five-ish months since you originally started. Now, the ones that we look at the most for cardiovascular disease is triglycerides and HDL. And we look at the ratio of those two. Your ratio is very, very close to a 1:1 ratio. And that's what we want. That shows that there's health, and neither of them are elevated or too low. So that's the really good news. That is a marker of insulin resistance, all those kind of things. It means you don't have that. As far as LDL, LDL is considered high in your case. However, there is no scientific proof that shows LDL elevated alone in the absence of elevated insulin or elevated elevated triglycerides and low HDL. There's no evidence that LDL alone can cause cardiovascular issues. If someone finds an article there, please send it to me, because I have tried looking for it to debunk it myself. Dave Feldman, who is a genius in all of this stuff, way more than I am, he himself put it out on Twitter, someone, I'll give you a reward, and no one was able to give him one, because all those studies that show LDL, it's more of a correlation. There's a study that showed I forget how many thousands of patients that was admitted. Upon admission, 50% of them had elevated LDL and 50% had low LDL upon admission of heart attack. Sorry, forgot that crucial part. So of some kind of cardiovascular issue, it was half and half. So again, correlation, not causation. So I would not be worried for you in that situation. If someone did have a situation like that where they're like, I'm still scared, I'm still stuck on LDL being the issue, I would recommend to someone that they can get a CAC score. And it's just an imaging thing that checks how much calcium is built up in your arteries. Or you can also get what's called ApoB measured. That's a blood lab, and that's a really good marker also to check for cardiovascular. So these are kind of like screeners. And then if you see little red flags, you can go a little deeper and see, is this something to be concerned about? If not, then I'm just going to let it be. So that's the cholesterol aspect of it.
That's reassuring, because, the doctor looks at it and they're like, what are you doing? This is horrendous. It instills a bit of fear in you, and especially when, like, I don't have the knowledge that you have or a lot of people have. I know really general that cholesterol or LDL, like you said, is not an indicator of heart disease necessarily. So it's just interesting hearing exactly how you worded that. So that's great.
Yeah. And I mean, if there was more time, I could even get into the details of why doesn't LDL matter as much on its own? But that would be another tool. I'll message you if you want to put in the link that Dave Feldman and I think Siobhan Huggins had both created, at least Dave Feldman did, is called the cholesterol code. And there's a calculator on there where you can type in all your numbers. So whoever you are, if you got labs done from your regular physician, you can type in those numbers, how long you've been fasted, did you have coffee, because that can make a difference with triglycerides as well. And there's some other questions, and you type it in and it gives you a risk assessment according to actual studies, the Framingham Heart Study and all other ones. And you can come prepared to your doctor's office to show them, look, this is the scientific proof of my risk of cardiovascular disease, according to these labs that you drew. So that's something I also send to my clients often, is I'll type that in and I'll copy and paste it and send it to them and say, see, according to science, you're okay.
Cool. That's interesting to know. Yeah, we'll definitely pop that in the description for sure. Maybe we can bring you on later to talk about stuff in a bit more depth. I think that'd be really cool for a much longer episode. All right, let's talk about the next thing, liver.
Liver is one of the ones. So your liver enzymes are within range for what in America we usually say LabCorp range, like that's the one we have here. But whatever your blood lab one is, it's within range. But for a functional perspective, they're slightly elevated. So when you first started on day one, your liver enzymes were perfect, but there wasn't much that was stressing it out, like making it work. And then a month in, it dramatically increased up to 43. So again, it's just barely above your lab's range. Functional, it's a bit significant. Now, 5 months later, it's starting to go back down. There's a couple hypotheses I would have from this. One of them is that your body is slowly adjusting after a very long plant-based diet. It's realizing, whoa, I actually have work I have to do. And it was maybe like almost getting nervous. It has to pump out a lot of bile and hurry up. But now it's like, okay, it's been 5 months. I'm going to start resting. That's one hypothesis. The other hypothesis is your liver might just need a little bit of love. You might have a sluggish liver, And that would contribute to, I didn't mention, your total cholesterol was pretty elevated. And again, I'm not one of those that would, hang my hat on, oh my gosh, total cholesterol is super high, you're going to die. But it's a signal that your liver's not filtering the cholesterol as much as it should. So that's where I would say get some kind of liver detox thing. What I give a lot of clients, something as simple as a castor oil pack, and doing that every night, it really helps to cleanse the liver and detox it. And there's a whole host of other things as well, with the big thing being stress and managing stress as well. So
good call. Yeah, I'm doing coffee enemas. That's been something that's helps with the liver apparently, but I've got to do the castor oil and there's some other things as well. And I've been told that I've got a sluggish liver, which started before I began all this actually. So, but I think, it's been working over time, but it's good to know that it's dropped a little.
Yes, it has dropped. So that's good. It's not in the lab high range. It's in the functional, just barely high range. So it's definitely in the right progression.
Got it.
Well, and one other thing I want to say on that is that if carnivore really was a bad thing for you, your liver enzymes would still be climbing, because that's how we figure out fatty liver, right? So you're eating a good amount of fat, but you're not showing signs of fatty liver. It's balancing out. So just to show that that's a really good point there. The next thing is thyroid. A lot of people will say, if you don't eat carbs, then your thyroid and your hormones get tanked. Well, good news for you, your hormones are fine. Your testosterone, your sex hormone binding globulin, all of those are perfect range. So I wouldn't even be worried to have to check a whole thyroid panel, because you don't have any symptoms of hyper or hypothyroid. Your TSH, which is not necessarily a thyroid hormone, it's a brain hormone, is within range, but it is a hormone that your brain is signaling to your thyroid to produce thyroid hormone. So that one is perfect. Your glucose is perfect. So yeah, carnivore will not give you diabetes. It is perfectly fine. And I think it was your A1C was fine. Oh, your C-reactive protein, which is an inflammation marker, that was fine. Everything was within range. I guess the only other thing would be your B vitamins. When you first started, your B12 was borderlining on the lower side, but it has since gone up, which is good and expected on a meat-based diet. There's tons of B12 in your beef. The one that did decrease was your folate. So that is kind of borderline low. You will find a lot of folate in eggs, in liver, certain organs. So I don't know if there's something there that happens that maybe you're eating less of, that you're not getting enough.
Yeah, I would say so.
Or it also could be connected to the liver also.
True. Yeah. I should probably crank up the organs. I've not been doing as much of that as I like. Like I have organ supplements as well, but I've not been taking them religiously. So I think that's definitely something that I can increase.
I think that's kind of it though. That's all that I have really seen that I was able to observe on your labs. Everything else, red blood cells, white blood cells, iron, everything else seems good.
Well, that's good to know that I'm not dying. I mean, we all are slowly, but it's not sooner. Thank you for sharing all that. So what's your overall like prognosis basically? Because it sounds like from what you said that there's an adjustment period when you're having, especially if you're going from like predominantly plant-based to something that's very high fat and animal fat, that there's an adjustment period, right? And it sounds like I'm still in that adjustment period as well, because I've never eaten like this before. What would you say is the kind of situation and where to move forward from here if someone else was in my position kind of too as well?
Yes, some people will get adjusted much faster, like within 3 months. And some people, depending on their history, it'll take 6, maybe even longer months. So in your case, what I would suggest is in probably like 2 to 3 months, maybe to err on the safe side, 3 months, get another lab drawn, basic stuff, just your liver markers and your cholesterol again, and kind of assess where things are at. If it was still elevated and things, if your cholesterol is too high for you kind of thing, and if your liver enzymes are still high, then that would show we just need to support your liver a little more. We'd get some different supplements. Adaptogens are really good. There's specific ones that can be really helpful on loving on the liver. And then the coffee enemas are great, the castor oil. But I would say if you stick to it on all those consistently, then your markers should get better.
Cool. That's good to know. I think we'll do it again in 3
Yeah.
months and just kind of see where things are at. That'd be fun. The interesting thing though is I feel better now than I have in like 13 or 14 years. And it's helped with some of my heart symptoms that I had. So I think that's definitely a win too.
I 100% agree. I mean, I feel 95% better than I ever have in my life, you know, but I too have elevated liver enzymes, and that is my focus lately, is trying to get that down. Mine personally is because of all the medication I've been on. My liver is very taxed from years and years of medications and horrible foods too. So yeah, it takes time, really, a lot of times, to get the liver to normal, but I would have never guessed. I mean, sometimes sluggish digestion can be a symptom of that, or constipation or bloating or any of those. Skin issues, I think you had mentioned you had some skin issues. So a lot of times that can be connected with it. But it's not one of those like in your face symptoms that you're like, oh, clearly I need to love on my liver. Like, it's kind of on the side.
Awesome. Hey, I know you got to go.
Yeah.
Got lots of things on, busy
Yes.
lady. But thank you so much for breaking that down for me. Guys, if you got any questions, please drop them in the comments. Go spam her and book out her calendar, please.
I hope that answers all your questions and curiosities about my blood work. Again, the best thing I've ever done for my health. It's been completely life-changing, and look forward to sharing what I have been doing next, which I feel like, to be honest, it's probably even more life-changing than doing this food thing. So you can watch that video right over here. And if you're considering doing this, then I would definitely recommend working with an experienced practitioner. Appreciate you all.